Welcome students, this is the third part of my video on The Man on the Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. So this chapter is from your English course book, and before starting with the chapter, let us first do a quick recap of the story. So what happens in the story is there is a young man named Jim. So he is all alone in the island. So when he was in the island, he realizes that someone is following him. At first, he feels some creature is there behind the trees who is following him. But later on, he comes to know that the creature who was following him is a man. Okay, and that name of that man is Ben Gunn, and he was marooned in that island by the pirates for at least 3 years. Okay, so it has been 3 years this Ben Gunn was staying in the island, and he was eating wild oats, berries, and shellfish. Well, and he was able to survive for 3 years in the island. So he was left on that island to die by the pirates. Okay, and he begs in front of Jim to take him out of the island. Okay, and he also asked Jim for some cheese, because he had not had a good food or cheese. Okay, so he wanted to have some cheese. He also had forgotten the taste of cheese, and he used to see those cheese in his dream also. So he desperately wanted some cheese to have. Okay, and he also wanted to have some good meal. So that's what he asks in front of Jim, begging in front of Jim. Okay. But the Jim says he had nothing to eat, okay, and he says that if he boards the ship, that time he will give you some cheese to eat, okay. Then after that, Ben Gunn also tells his story, his past story. How was he to Jim, okay. Then Jim, after hearing the story, he thinks that this man has become mad. Okay, at last Ben Gunn also tells that he is a rich man. Then he also tells Jim that if he will take off from that island, then this Ben Gunn will give him a huge amount of money to Jim. So hearing this, Jim thinks that this man has become mad, as he was left all alone in the island for 3 years. So that's why he had gone mad. He thinks like that. But this Ben Gunn is able to read his mind, and he thinks that if you don't believe, then just take me out of it. I will show you what can I give. He tries to convince the Jim. Okay. Then after that, we have done till here. Then after that, I am going to explain you today. Then after that, what happens? This Ben Gunn suddenly feels frightened, okay, and look over his face and asks to Jim, "Tell me the truth. You are not a Flint Ship. You are not from Flint Ship." So he says that Ben Gunn asks to Jim that, "Are you from Flint Ship?" So Flint is a name of a person, okay. So he may be the person who had punished this Ben Gunn. That's why this Ben Gunn is afraid of afraid of Flint. Okay, so he asks Jim whether this Jim is a Flint man or not. Okay, then this Jim says, "I am not any Flint's man." Okay, I am not any Flint's man, and Ben Gunn further adds. And this Jim says, okay, then this Jim answers, "I am not a Flint's man. I am, this Flint is already dead, but some of his men are on the sea, okay, and that's bad for us." So this Jim says, "I am not Flint man, but Flint is already dead, but some of the Flint's men are in the sea, okay, that is bad news for us," he says. So, is there a man with one leg? Then Ben Gunn further asks, to Jim that if is there a man with one leg, okay? And Jim says Long John Silver. His name is Ben Gunn says Long John Silver, okay? That's his name. He's there, he's the cook, and he's the leader of Flint's man, okay? Then Jim says, yes, he's there, okay? He is a cook, okay? And he is also now the leader of Flint's man, okay? All this time, Ben Gunn had been holding my hand. So all this time, Ben Gunn was, when these two were talking with each other that time, till that time, this Ben Gunn was holding the Jim's hand. But hearing that this Long John Silver was still there, hearing that, he pressed Jim's hand so tightly that he almost cried out of pain. Okay? You haven't come from Long John, have you? So Ben Gunn asked Simon, so you are the Long John's man or no? Okay, so Jim says, I am not any Long John's man or the Flint's man. Okay? Then Jim decides to tell his story. Jim decides Ben Gunn to tell his. So Jim decides to tell Ben Gunn his whole story. Understand? So of voice means a long journey on sea. So Jim decided to tell Ben Gunn, decides to tell Ben Gunn how he came to that island. Okay? And what danger he is facing now. Okay, he tells everything to Ben Gunn. Okay, he listened with great interest. Now this Ben Gunn listens to Jim with great interest. Okay, so when Jim finished the story, okay, he stroked my hand. You are a good lad, Jim. He said, you are in nasty corner, but we will find a way out. Trust me, Ben Gunn. Trust in Ben Gunn. Ben Gunn is a man. I will help you, Jim. So, after hearing the story of Jim, Ben Gunn says, you are in nasty corner. Nasty corner means bad or unpleasant situation. You are in bad situation now. But don't worry, I'm here. Okay? Trust me. Trust in Ben Gunn. We will definitely make out of this island. Ben Gunn says to Jim. Understand? So he paused a moment, then he asked me, tell me, Jim, is your Mr. Trelawney likely to be generous to a man who helped him? So we have already discussed about Mr. Trelawney in the first line of the chapter. So Mr. Trelawney, so maybe this Jim had discussed in his story about Mr. Trelawney to Ben Gunn. That's why Ben Gunn is asking about Mr. Trelawney to Jim. Okay? So he is asking, Ben Gunn now is asking to Jim, will this Mr. Trelawney help me? Okay? Then this Jim says, yes, of course, this Mr. Trelawney is very generous man, very helpful man. Okay? So he was helping others, then why not he will help you? Okay? He will obviously help you. He is saying to Ben Gunn. Jim is saying to Ben Gunn. He is a very rich man and is a very honored person, and he is very generous man. Okay, and he is land owner also. So he will obviously help you. He will obviously give you what you have, what you want. Okay. So do you think that he had let me have say £1,000 of money, the money that's mine only? So Ben Gunn asks, do you think this Mr. Trelawney will give me £1,000 of money to me? Then Jim says, yes, of course he will give. He is very generous man, he will help you. Okay? Then after that, what happens? He stroked my hand. Then he said, well, Jim, you have told me your story. Now I'll tell you mine. So after knowing about Mr. Trelawney, okay, now this Ben Gunn says that, Jim, you have already told me your story. Okay, now I will tell my story, how I came to this island. Okay, so I was on Flint's seat when he came here with the treasure. Okay, so he says, this Bengal was with the Flint when he came to this island. When the Flint came to this island with the treasure. Okay, treasure means, treasure means huge amount of golden jewelries and precious jewelries. Okay, that is known as treasure. Okay, so this Bengal was with Flint. Okay, this Bengal was with Flint. Bengal was with Flint when Flint came to that island. So why Flint came to that island? He came to that island to hide the treasure. Okay, so that time Bill Jones was the man. So that time when he first came to that island, when Bengal first came to that island, who was there? Flint was the captain of ship, and the vice captain was Matt is type of a vice captain or the fellow Matts. Okay, was Billy Bonds, and Long John, one-legged man. Long John was in charge of store that time. That time, this Long John was not the captain. Okay, that time he was in charge of stores. Okay, Flint went on shore with 6 men. So Flint had brought treasure with him to hide in that island. Okay, somewhere in that island. So when this Flint reached that shore of that island, so he along with other 6 strong men, okay, went inside the island to hide the treasure. Understand? And when they came back, when this Flint came back, he went with the 6 men inside the island, but when he came back, he was all alone. Okay, because Flint had killed all the 6 men, and he had hidden the treasure what he had brought with him in somewhere in the island. Okay, he sailed away at once. So when he had successfully hidden that treasure in the island, so he sailed away at once. Okay, then after that Ben Gunn came to island with his fellow mates, means with his friends. Okay, he came to the island to find the Flint treasure in that island. Okay, Ben was successful in convincing his friends to find the. So Ben might have heard somewhere, or Ben might have seen that the Flint hiding the treasure in the island. That's why the Ben with his friend came to that island to find the Flint's treasure. Okay, and what he did, he came with his friend. Okay, and he somehow convinced his friends to find that treasure, and he came to that island to find the Flint's treasure, where the Flint has hidden the treasure. Okay, to store that treasure. Okay, actually they came to the island, Ben Gunn and his friend. Okay, but they continued finding that treasure for 12 days, but they were not successful in finding. They didn't get the treasure, Flint treasure, anywhere in the island. So this Ben Gunn friends got angry, and they left Ben Gunn all alone in the island, giving 1 axe and 1 gun only. Okay, they left all alone in the island and they went away. Okay, so these friends, they tried to find out for 12 days, but they were not successful in finding the treasure. So they felt angry. Okay, and they punished Ben Gunn, and they marooned Ben Gunn in the island to die. Okay, giving just 1 gun and 1 axe. Okay, so they sailed away and left me here. So that is how Ben Gunn came to that island. Okay, Then after that, Bengan stopped and asked me anxiously, will you will speak to Mr. Ptolemy for me? Jim, won't you? So Bengan last hope was Mr. Ptolemy. Jim must have told something about Mr. Ptolemy to Bengan. That's why he had a hope that this Jim will talk to Mr. Ptolemy and Mr. Ptolemy will take me out of this island. He must have thought. So Bengan again and again was asking to Jim that will you speak to Mr. Ptolemy? Okay. Then yes, of course. Then Jim says, yes, of course, I will speak to Mr. Ptolemy. I promise you, I will speak about you to Mr. Ptolemy. But I don't know how I am going back on the boat. But how? But this Jim says, but I don't know how I am going back on the boat. Okay, to the sea. Okay. You can have my boat. So you can take my boat. Then this Bengan says, you can take my boat, okay? Then you can go to board your ship, okay? You can have my boat, Jim. I made it myself with my own two hands. It's lying there just under the white rock. So Bengan gives his small boat to Jim, so that Jim can go out of that island. Okay. So he also says that it was lying just under the white rock. Okay. At that moment we heard the sound of the ship's cannon. So at that moment only they hears the sound of the ship. Okay. Cannon. Cannon means large gun. Sound of the large gun. Okay. 2 hours before the sunset. So when they were talking, that at that moment only they heard the sound of the ship or cannon. Okay, large gun. Okay, they were fighting. So these two they were fighting. Obviously they were pirates and they were fighting. Okay, come on Ben. Okay, come on Ben. Jim says, come on Ben. Okay, then let's go. Okay, he said. We jumped up and ran in the direction of the bay. So they jumped up and they ran in the direction of the bay to board that sea. Okay, the cannon had stopped, but the guns were being fired. Now the sound of the large guns had stopped, but the sound of the small gun firing was still there. Okay, the fight had begun. The fight had already begun between the pirates, and we ran on in the direction of the ship, and they ran on the direction of the ship so that they can board the ship and get out of the island. Okay, I stopped suddenly high above some trees. This English flag was flying. So when they were running, they stopped suddenly, and Jim stopped suddenly, and he climbed up the tree and he saw from there whose boat was it. So he sees that there is an English flag. Then obviously there's an Englishman. That's an Englishman boat, and this Jim was also an Englishman. Okay, so your friends are there, Jim. Then Bengan also says, your friend had come, so you go now, you go on. I should not come with you. Then this Bengan says, so you can go, I will not come with you. Okay, and if you'll go and don't forget to talk to Mr. Trump or other gentlemen, okay, about me. Okay, he says. Okay, if Mr. Ptolemy or the other gentlemen want to see me, you know where to find me. Bengan told me. Thank you, Ben. I said, running fast was the plan. So at last he says that, Jim, you go. I will not be coming. You please talk about me to Mr. Ptolemy, so that this Mr. Ptolemy will come back to this island and get me out of the island. Okay. So please don't forget to talk to Mr. Ptolemy about me. Okay. Then this Jim says, okay, Ben. Okay. Thank you, Ben. I said, and running fast, and he ran towards the flag, to the ship of the Englishman, and he gets out of the island. Okay, but Bengal was left behind in the island again, and he sits in that island. Okay, hoping that one day this jinn will come with Mr. Talami to get me out of the island. Okay, so with here the story ends. Okay, I hope you all are clear with the story, the man on the island. Okay, if you have any doubt and if you have not understood anything in this chapter, then we will be having the virtual classes. Okay, that time we will discuss on this chapter. Okay, till then, stay home, stay safe, and have a nice day.